morning, everyone, and welcome once again to our weekly Sunrise Project call, where it's always a safe space filled with love and compassion and our mutual desire to heal ourselves and our families. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I am so delighted this particular morning to have my dear friend, my soror, my confidant, business colleague, and champion of the SonRise Project, Dr. Lynn Richardson, with us. Dr. Lynn is calling in from California, where it is 6 a.m. out there. So thank you for being here. She is an ordained minister, a certified chaplain, author, entertainment executive, and celebrity financial coach who uses her quick wit and humor to help people like us face our money issues, make better decisions, as well as achieve personal, professional, and spiritual harmony. With almost 3 decades of leading roles in the financial services industries, Dr. Lynn's vision is best portrayed in her books, most notably Living Paycheck to Monday, The Real Deal About Money, and Credit and Financial Security. Dr. Lynn is a regularly featured guest on countless media outlets nationwide, and she's currently the chaplain and president CEO of MC Light's Hip Hop Sisters Foundation and president and CEO of MC Light's Funny Girl, an entertainment and celebrity management firm. She has been doing incredible work with MC Light for many, 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 many years. And they launched something called the Wealth Experience as well, a 3-day New Year's retreat that she created for celebrities, entertainment, and corporate executives. I have attended, it's phenomenal. And I'll be back next year. During the pandemic, Dr. Richardson became a global household name to millions of consumers around the world seeking to manage the financial implications of the pandemic. And I could go on and on and on. She's worked with JP Morgan Chase on advancing Black pathways. She's worked with Freddie Mac, teaching mortgage professionals across the United States. And she has hosted the Millionaires Roundtable show for many years. It airs daily, Monday through Friday on the radio. And she is just a phenomenal force. I could go on and on and on and on, but she is here with us this morning. And I would say also, she just said one of her daughters is home today. So she's about to cook an incredible meal. So she's a chef and a mom of 3 beautiful adult daughters. And again, I am so delighted, Dr. Lynn, to have you back. Welcome. And thank you for being here so early, especially.
Well, thank you for having me. It is such an honor. I've been up for the past couple of hours excited
Yes.
and getting
Well,
ready. Yes,
I
yes.
appreciate you. I appreciate you. And when you were here with us in February, so many people said, "Can we have her back? Can she come back and give us some more?" Because you gave us such great wisdom and nuggets and just phenomenal, phenomenal information that most of us don't know. We don't grow up knowing these things at all. We get all of our physical traits from our parents, but we don't normally get financial wisdom and guidance. So with tax season being right here, right now, taxes are due on Tuesday. Many of us get extensions, and that's a good thing. But there are some things we can learn. So I want to open up this morning's special session to get your advice on some tax tips that all of us can do, whether it's for this Tuesday's deadline or for planning for next year. So let's start there.
Well, I am very, very excited to share a very, very quick tax hack for those who have not contributed to their IRA. The maximum contribution for the IRA, that's your individual retirement account, the maximum contribution for 2024 is $7,000 up to age 50 and $8,000 if you are 50 and over. And you still have until April 15th of 2025 to make that 2024 contribution. That's a big deal because the individual retirement account funds that you commit reduce your tax dollars significantly. So if you take
Mhm.
$7,000 and you decide, maybe you've got some money sitting around in a savings account. If it's in your savings account, you don't get your money back. If you put it in an
Mm-hmm.
individual retirement account, you do. So that's huge. So $7,000, if you are in the 25% tax bracket, that's an additional $2,000 that you would save on your taxes. So if you happen to have had some kind of spreadsheet that tell you what you're going to owe for taxes
Mm-hmm.
this year. And if you're going to owe, let's say, $7,000, well, just by moving your money from one account to another, you can save an additional $2,000. So that's huge.
Got it.
You still have, again, until the filing deadline to make that happen. And you don't even have to leave your home. Most financial institutions provide the opportunity for you to open an individual retirement account online. So if you get started today, and I do recommend if you're going to do this, get started today because it takes about 24 hours for the system to recognize your account, set it up, and to make it active and up and running by April 15th. So that's huge, Kelly,
That
because
is
lots of us,
huge.
yeah, hmm yeah,
No,
lots of us
keep
have not
going.
made
Mm-hmm.
that maximum contribution. Yeah, so that's one. Now, for everybody who's self-employed,
Can
everybody
I ask
knows
a
that I
question
always
about that
talk
though,
about,
Dr. Lynn? I have a quick
yeah.
tactical question about that. So,
Mm-hmm.
if a person opens up an individual retirement account today on
Uh-huh.
their bank's website to get the money in to be counted for 2024,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't you have to write a check and backdate it to say December 31st, 2024?
No, no, you don't have to backdate it. So that technically, and you can actually Google this, the federal deadline to make that deposit for 2024 is April 15th of 2025. So no, you
Okay.
don't have to backdate it. You can actually make an electronic transfer, or if you write a check, you'd have to go into the
Mm,
bank for them to accept that check. But it can be dated as late as April 15th of 2025. That's why doing this session today was so important because the
yes.
first of the year just started out with just so much drama with everything with
Mm-hmm.
California fires and the election and all these things. So this is a great time for people to catch up on things like that.
Absolutely. And for people who, what is the difference between an individual retirement account, an IRA, and a SEP, SEP, SEP?
So, yes, that's an excellent question. So, an individual retirement account is something that anyone can open. So, if you are employed by any company and they give you a W-2 at the end of the year, or you are not employed at all, you can go on and open an individual retirement account. However, if you are self-employed, a
Yes.
self-employed individual, so someone who has a single member LLC, someone who has an S corp, or someone who is a sole proprietor, if you are either of those three, you can open a SEP, which is a self-employment plan. So it's a self-employment retirement plan, and it's called a SEP, and it works the exact same as an IRA. If you are self-employed, you have an additional bonus. However, you have a humongous bonus, but that's the essential difference. And the other thing that I want to say is you can also open a Roth IRA. Now, the difference between an IRA and a Roth IRA, if you make a contribution to your IRA and regardless of which one you choose, the limit is still $7,000 and you can do it by April 15th of 2025 to get credit for 2024, meaning your 2024 taxes are about to be due and payable, and I'll talk to you about that. The maximum that you can combine that you can contribute to both is $7,000 up to age 50 and $8,000 50 or over because they allow those of us who are 50 and over to catch up contributions. Now, the difference
Right.
between the two, the IRA is going to be tax deductible now, but as it
Mm-hmm.
grows, when you then start to take the money out in retirement, you will be taxed on it later. The
Mm-hmm.
Roth IRA is not tax deductible now. So if you're rushing to go and open this, if you open a Roth IRA, you're not going to see the tax deduction today. You will,
Mm,
however, grow the Roth IRA for the next 10, 15, 20, or 30 years, and it will be tax deductible when you take the money out. So
got it.
there's a very, very, important decision to make for you to sit
Hmm.
with your financial advisor to figure out how much do I put in my Roth IRA? How much do I put in
Yes.
my IRA? Because chances are the money is going to be greater later. So you may want
Yes.
that tax deduction then. So I'm
Got it.
glad you asked that question.
And
Yes.
you know what? Just to build on what you said, the huge benefits, because many of us are self-employed or entrepreneurs, many of the people on this call, including yourself, and so many others that call in every Sunday. But I know that because my finance person just said to me recently, you can take up to 25%. You can contribute into your set
Yes. Yes,
or
absolutely. So,
69,000, right? For
yes,
2024, up to 29,
that, oh,
69,000.
69,000, but I have another bonus for you. So that was the big bonus. If you are
Yeah.
self-employed, you can contribute to your solo 401k. You can contribute up to $69,000. Or if you are 50 and over, you get to catch up. You get to catch up an additional $7,500. So you get to contribute up to 76,500. So
Wow.
$69,000 if you're self-employed, 76,500 if you're 50 and up. Now, let me explain to you why this is so huge, huge, huge.
It is
There are
huge.
many self-employed, yeah, there are many self-employed people who make a decent income. And
Mm-hmm.
you've got that money and you've earned it and you've paid out your contractors, you've paid out your employees, you've paid out everyone. And now you've got this big salary. And so you're looking for tax write-offs. Well, the biggest tax write-off is the one that you can give to yourself. And that
That's
is
right.
through your contribution to your solo 401k plan. Now, an additional $76,500 in tax write-offs. Let me tell you the math. An additional $75,000 in tax write-offs. I'm going to do the math right now. If you are in the 25% tax bracket, that's $19,125 taken off your tax bill. That's
Mm,
too much money to ignore. That's
that's right.
way too much money to ignore. And if you were, let's say you only owed 15,000 in taxes, that means now you're getting $4,125 back in a tax refund. And this is just one tax deduction. Not to mention that, we're talking about the tax savings, but let me also talk to you about the other advantages of your solo 401k if you are self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
If you contribute your money to an IRA, which is still a good idea, if you work for someone else, if you don't own a business, you can contribute to your IRA. You cannot take that money out until you reach retirement age, which is 71 and a half. If you take the money out sooner, you will then face a 20 to 25% penalty, depending on your tax bracket, age, and so on. However, the money in your solo 401k, you can borrow against it. You can borrow against your own money that you were saving for retirement and get a tax deduction. So let me give you a scenario.
Mm,
You can contribute 69,000 or $76,500 to your solo 401k on April 15th. And then
mm-hmm.
on May 15th, you can borrow the money for if you're going to buy a new house, if you have some
Mm,
kind of major health issue, if you've got some other documentable reason, you can borrow that money. Now you have to pay the interest back, but guess who you're paying the interest to? Yourself.
that's amazing.
So you pay, and the bill collector, they're not going to come like knocking on your door because you are your own creditor. So that's one of the
Right.
advantages. You got the significant reduction in your tax bill, and you can borrow against the money prior to retirement if there is a documentable, approvable need. So that's just it's a no-brainer, actually.
Dr. Lynn, good morning.
Ah, good
Hi,
morning.
it's
Good morning.
Vicky. It's Vicky. While we wait for Kelly to come back, can you
Hey,
share?
Dr. Vicky.
Hi, can you share some other strategies for those who may not have $7,000 or who are, self-employed? Just some other tax strategies that we can use moving forward, planning for next year, right? Especially in light of
Absolutely.
all the changes. What can we start doing now? Because I know some may be on the line today, like, oh, I missed that. Oh, I don't have
Yeah,
that. How can we be empowered moving forward? Can you share some
I love
tips?
it. Absolutely. So, you know me, I always say, I don't care if it's a dollar, I don't care if it's a dime, because it all adds up. So, $7,000 is the maximum contribution. But if you want to open your IRA with $500, $250, $100, I encourage you to do it. I encourage you to do it because when we sow into a thing, whatever we sow into a thing, that shall we also reap. And so this is not necessarily about the quantity. This is really about intentionality. And so I encourage everyone, especially if you don't have an IRA at all, you can go to your bank. Now, you have to go to your bank's brokerage section. So if you bank with Wells Fargo, they have Wells Fargo advisors. If you have Bank of America, they have Merrill Lynch. If you have JP Morgan Chase, they have the JP Morgan section. If you don't want to go through your bank, you can also go through major brokers. Like, I love fidelity.com. I am very, very publicly positive about Fidelity as a broker, because during the pandemic, when all of the Robinhood, everything shut down and nobody could trade anywhere, guess who could trade? Me. Because I have been on Fidelity since I've known what to do with monies, even when I had no money. And so fidelity.com, Charles Schwab, E-Trade, all of those sites allow you to open a brokerage account. And again, you can start with $1, $25, $50, $100. So I encourage you to do that. That's the first thing, because starting is where you start to put in the action. If you happen to start your brokerage account, your IRA, where you bank, then you can set up automatic transfers. That is the absolute best thing you can do. So, my youngest daughter is 24. My oldest is 29. She'll be 30 this year. When they turned 18, everybody got their brokerage accounts and all these things. And I just said, if you put in $50 a month, $50 a month, $50 a month at the age, whatever age you are, over the next 20 years, renders you about $1.2 million if you are putting your money into an instrument that outperforms the S&P 500. Now, that sounds very technical, but it is not. So if you go to your brokerage website and you go to, let's say, whether it's Wells Fargo or Fidelity.com, and you're saying, or if you go to your employer site and they've got those different funds that you can choose. So now that I've opened my IRA, where do I put the money? And you'll see all these funds and nobody knows what they mean. Well, you can go to your website brokerage for free and you can look up that fund, look up the name, and then go to the research and compare. Every single brokerage site has a research and compare option. And so you're going to type in your fund, and then it's going to say compare to what? Simply type in S&P 500. Literally S ampersand A P 500. The S&P 500 represents the 500 biggest companies and their stocks. So when you are comparing to the S&P 500, you are comparing basically to the stock market and how it performs over time. And you want to compare your fund to the S&P 500, and you want to compare to see what your fund has done over the last 20 years. And if your fund has maintained the same level of growth as the S&P 500 over the past 20 years, then that's a good fund to choose. So Very simple. Choose a fund that is staying with or outperforming the S&P 500 and make $10 a pay period, $10 a month, $50 a month, wherever you are. And over time, you will see that money grow. And after 20 years of not touching that money and choosing a fund that will outperform the S&P 500, you're looking at about $1.2 million. And that's just after 20 years. So when I told my daughters this at the age of 18, they immediately said, well, what if it's $100? If it's $100, 1.2 million becomes 1.9 million. Now, if you were to take $100 a month, I'm just going to give you an example. $100 a month, if you were to just put it into your savings account, $100 a month times 12 months is $1,200 a year. If you multiply that times 20 years, that's only $24,000. Most savings accounts are only earning about 1% interest. So you could expect to have somewhere around $27,500 in 20 years putting it into a savings account. But when you put that thing into an IRA or a Roth IRA or your solo 401k, and then you choose the funds that are outperforming the S&P 500, not only do you have these tax savings every year, but you are ramping up your retirement fund. And I'm so glad you asked that question, Dr. Vicky, because there are so many people who are 30 and 40 and 50 and even 60 who are thinking, I don't have a retirement fund. I'm paying too much in taxes. It's too late for me. It is never too late. It is never too late. The age expectancy is almost 90. If you're keeping yourself healthy, so if you're 60, that means you've got 30 more years. 30 more years. Just like someone who's starting out at a young age. So never think it's too late. Never think that you just haven't done anything and that you're down and out. Right now is the day to start. Do the best you can where you are with what you have now.
I think that's so good, Dr. Lynn, and empowering, because I think a lot, a confused mind does nothing. A hopeless heart does nothing. So I think that's great to encourage us, even if it's $25 or $50. Um, does anybody have any questions? I want to definitely take advantage of having Dr. Lynn with us today. And wow, hopefully Kelli can get back on. But if you have a question, you can unmute. If you're on the phone, you can hit *6. But let's take advantage of this blessing of having Dr. Lynn with us today. Does anybody have any questions? You can just unmute and ask your question.
And while we wait for questions, I'll just give a couple of more tax tips
Perfect.
that we could adhere to before April 15th, because we want to try to, while we're in the mood, we want to just do what we can. The next thing that I'm going to say after making sure that you either have that IRA opened, if you've got some money sitting somewhere, you're going to either pay taxes on that money or you're going to allow that money to work for you to get as tax-free as you possibly can. So I would say that. The next thing I would say is if you have a child, a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, a godson, a goddaughter, a grandson, a granddaughter, hire them today to work in your home-based business because you can pay each child up to $13,400 a year. That money is tax-free to you and it is tax-free to them, the first $13,400. This is huge. Now, I don't know anybody who spends less than about $10,000 on their young people in a year. You're either spending money on formula and diapers or a new outfit for the birthday party or tuition for school or football and basketball and ballet and piano or karate. We are spending something on these kids. And the truth be told, it doesn't matter how much money we don't have. For some reason, we still got to spend money on our kids. Again, your child, your niece, your nephew, an adopted child, grandchildren, And not just young children, older children. My children are all adults, but most of them are still dependent on me.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Mm-hmm.
still work for the business so that the money that I'm going to give them anyway, you see, if you give your child an allowance, that's not tax deductible. But if you pay them a salary, it is. If you buy your child school clothes, that's not tax deductible. But if you give them a salary, it is. And then let them buy their own school clothes. So literally, my youngest daughter, Kennedy, when she was 6 years old, she and Taylor, they had their own checkbooks. They had their own things to pay for school, and I paid things out of their account. So that's something that's very important that you can start today. And you hire your child just like you hire anyone. They need a job, a title, a job description, and then people say, well, do you have to pay them? Yes, you have to pay money to their account to show that it was a transaction. And then they use the money in their account to pay for all of their own things. They can buy their own video games. They can buy
Mm.
their own school clothes. They can pay for their own ballet lessons and football and swimming practices and uniforms and all those things. That's very, very important. I want people to get while we're in this tax season.
Can you just, there's a couple questions about that. And can you hear me now, by the way?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
great. I just want to build on what you're saying. A person asked, is there an age limit? I heard you say that you have grown daughters. Is there an age limit on that child that you're hiring or the
Yeah.
grandchild?
So there is no age limit, and the age that people are usually concerned about, they're usually concerned about the minimum age. So IRS publication 15, page 15. If you look on that, if you Google it now and you download it and you open it up and scroll down to family employees, there is no minimum age. It talks about when a parent or family member hires a child or youth and so on and so forth. So there is no minimum age. And let me prove it to you because your accountants are like lawyers. They specialize in specific areas. Accountants are like doctors. You don't go to the foot doctor if you want brain surgery. You
That's
actually
right.
really need to go to Ben Carson for that brain surgery, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You don't go to the eye doctor if you need to get your tooth pulled. That's going to be a recipe for disaster. So, in the
Mm-hmm.
same way that you have to specify which doctor you go to or which lawyer you go to, you need to specify which CPA or tax provider you are speaking to. Because I remember being on a YouTube special that went viral during the pandemic, and I was on that special as a professional, and I was sitting next to a C-Tech, which is a specialized tax professional in California, and a CPA, and neither of them knew about IRS Publication 15. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make them unknowledgeable, they just didn't know about that. And so, of course, I whipped it out my bag right there on the air, on TV, and everybody started laughing. Honey, I don't play. I've got proof. This is not what Dr. Lynn said, it's what the IRS said. So there is no minimum age. Now, let me prove it to you. Have you ever seen a diaper commercial? You see those babies? They're
Mm-hmm.
working. They're modeling. Have you ever seen a
Wow.
baby food commercial? They are working. They're
Right.
on set. That is work. And so the Department of Labor, so then they say, well, then you have labor laws. The Department of Labor, and I will send this link to the chat before we close out. The Department of Labor says that there are no labor laws when a minor child, is working in a home based business doing one of four things. If they are babysitting, if they are doing entertainment activities. So, entertainment activities are filming. Maybe you've got your kids in your video that go on your YouTube page that promote your business. If you go to Disney World, maybe that is the set for a shoot for your business. Every time we take our kids on a family vacation, it is not a vacation, it is a business trip. And I always get footage of the family doing business activities for the business to promote the business.
Mm.
So that's something, if your CPA says, no, you can't do that, I want you to whip out IRS publication 15 pay. And
Yeah.
then they're going to look at you and say, oh, well, there's a minimum age. And then you're going to whip out, you're going to whip out the rule from the Department of Labor that says there is no labor law. So they can work at any hour of the day for any number of hours in your home-based business, as long as it's not agricultural farming and as long as it's not dangerous work. So
It's
there you go for
amazing.
that.
So even do
Yeah.
it. So there's a couple of questions I want to definitely get to, but just to reiterate, when you say home-based business, does it have to be a sole proprietorship or can it be an LLC? Can it be any type of business?
It can be any type of business as long as it's a home-based business. It can be it can be a sole proprietorship. And this is something that people learned during the pandemic. And I've been saying, even if you don't have an LLC, even if you don't have an S Corp or a corporation, if you are in business, let's say driving Uber, let's say you make cookies and you then sell them, you are a sole proprietor. And in that case, you're using your name and your social
Yeah.
security number to file your income on Schedule C of your 1040 tax return. So if you are a sole proprietor, if you are an LLC, and or
Mm-hmm.
if you are an S corp and you have a home-based business. Now, what does it mean to have a home-based business?
Mm-hmm.
First, let me tell you what it's not. It's not the business that you work at where you get a W-2 and you happen to work from home. That's not a home-based business. So if you work for McDonald's or Target or whomever or any kind of company out there, and they say, well, you can work at home and we give you a W-2, that is not a home-based business. You are actually an employee at someone else's business. If, however, you have a business and it's your business and you do your primary activities, what are your primary administrative activities? So let's say you drive for Uber or any kind of rideshare company. Now, technically, that business is in the car because you have to actually go out. But where do you get your appointments? Where do you record your expenditures? Where do you do your administrative work? That's a home-based business. If you do hair from home, if you consult from home, if you are a tutor, let's say you're a tutor, but then when you go out to tutor, you have to go somewhere and visit. But at your home is where you do your primary administrative activities and you do not have a separate building or location. That is a home-based business.
Got
And
it.
in that home-based business, you can hire employees and you can hire independent contractors. Employees are W-2 and 1099 independent contractors. And you, as the self-employed business
Mm,
owner, now get all these tax deductions. There are over 400, and I just talked to you about two. Yes.
amazing. Gosh. Okay. I want to turn over to Taj, who's had her hand up for a while. That's so amazing. Only two of 400. I wish you could stay and give us all 400. But Taj, feel free.
Good
Jump in.
morning. Welcome back. Thank you for coming back. I
Thank
just
you
have a
for
question.
having me back.
Oh, sure. My question is just general. It's quite overwhelming to learn all this stuff. And I've been looking, trying to find what's the what do you call them? High yield savings accounts and CDs. Is there better, or is it good to have a combination of both?
I prefer the high yield savings account because the high yield savings accounts right now are paying more in interest than most CDs. Also, the high yield savings account offers you the flexibility of being able to withdraw that money at any time without penalty. However, if you know for a fact that you have some funds that you want to put away and you're not going to touch it for 3 years or 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, whatever that CD is, I would strongly ask you to consider doing the math and potentially looking at some kind of a mutual fund that may give you a slightly higher return, and or an ETF, an electronic traded fund that will give you a slightly higher return, and then look at it there. But if you're really talking about just the difference between a CD, a certificate of deposit, and a high yield savings account, then I would opt for the high yield savings account because of the flexibility. Now, for those of you who don't know, high yield savings accounts right now are paying almost 5%.
Wow.
Most of them are between 4.75 and 5%. Huge, 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 huge. I
Yes.
put money in my high yield savings account every Friday. It comes out of my account every single Friday. Same for my husband, same for my 3 daughters. I set it up. And American Express, Capital One, I think those are two of the most popular. There are a few other high yield savings accounts, and I'd advise you to go online, Google them. Just Google high yield savings account. I think Fifth Third may have one as well, but
Mhm.
Google high yield savings account. And I recommend that you go with a name that you recognize. Some of
Gotcha.
the other high yield savings accounts, while they are safe, they are FDIC insured, some of them do not have a customer service department, so you cannot speak to anyone on the phone ever. So you want to make sure you just look at what those are and then
Yeah.
compare and go from there.
And that's why I was waiting to ask you this question because I've done Googled myself to death. And I've seen so many different names. So I'm glad you said go with somebody more familiar, popular,
Yeah,
and this is as a result of me receiving buyout from a divorce. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the best places to put the money that I receive so it can work for me versus me touching it too soon or too often.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's awesome.
Very
Thank
good.
you for that. And
Thank
there's a
you.
question before we go to D. Thank you, Taj. There's a question about the maximum, since you were talking about children. The question is there a maximum age to claim children on my tax return?
There is no maximum age per se to claim children on your tax return, as long as you can answer the questions. Does that person, provide for themselves? Are they claiming themselves as a dependent? There are a few questions there. So there technically is no maximum age to claim anyone as a dependent on your tax return. As a matter of fact, does anybody want to claim me as a dependent? Because I don't want to pay for anything anymore.
Exactly.
So,
That's so funny.
yeah.
So you
So
can
they're
claim your
technically
children as long as they are not filing a tax return.
exactly, as long as they are not claiming themselves as a dependent. And now they can still earn an income, but they cannot then claim themselves as their own, they cannot claim their own selves. But you're going to want to do the math on that. So it may be more beneficial to your young person, because if your young person is filing a tax return, or your adult person is filing a tax return, and you're still taking care of them, chances are they can't pay their own taxes either. So
Mhm.
you may want to take a look at, is it more beneficial for them to claim themselves, or is it more beneficial for me to claim them still, since I am
Right.
still providing for their housing needs, and in many cases, maybe their educational needs? Now, there is a limit for claiming them on your health insurance at a certain point. I think the age is 27 or 28. I know
Mhm.
that now because my oldest daughter, has been on mine for like ever. And then finally
Mhm.
this year, she finally wasn't able to stay on. And so I had to set up a separate health insurance policy for her.
Yeah.
But I believe it's
It's
that. So you want to do
26.
the math with
26.
your
It's
tax person.
26.
Yeah,
Yeah.
26. Okay. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
26
Yeah. Someone
for
just
health
put in the
insurance.
chat. Hi, Greta. So I want to take Dee's question, and then there's several more in the chat. We'll try to jump to those as well. But Dee?
Hey, Dr. Lynn. So you answered
Hi.
part of my question, claiming a dependent adult, but are there additional, so this is a two-part question, additional deductions for claiming an adult with a disability? And going back to your other question about paying your children to actually work for you, but if that child also has a disability, is there a different route that may be more beneficial than doing it that way? And just adding the loop that no, my son doesn't get any government resources. So we don't necessarily have that Social Security threshold and those other things. But just wondering because we do spend a ridiculous amount of money caring for him, you know, therapies. And I told you earlier that I'm going through receipts for everything. So I just want to make sure I don't leave anything off my spreadsheet that I can claim.
So I'm glad you asked that question, because I started off by saying that IRA was a very quick, fast way to get a tax deduction that you may not know you have, especially if you've got some money sitting there that you otherwise weren't going to do anything with. That's a great idea. Then I talked about hiring people, starting with your child, grandchild, niece, nephew, goddaughter. We have all kind of people that we take care of. In our community, we take care of each other. And so even if we did not birth the person, they may very well be someone who is near and dear to us that we provide for. When it comes to disability, there are going to be a significant amount of medical expenses, whether they be for, mental health, physical health, emotional health, prescriptions, tools, apparatus that may be needed, special classes, tutoring, therapy. All of these things are not a tax deduction, except if you have a home-based business. Now, I told you about 2 tax deductions. Now, here's number 3. You can now open a self-employed medical reimbursement program for yourself as a self-employed individual. This is huge, 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 because if you have a self-employed medical reimbursement program, and I have one, for Lynn Richardson LLC, for my single member LLC that operates as a sole proprietorship, I hired my husband to work for the business. He provides security. He's a driver. When he travels with us, he's doing, all kinds of things that someone like him is needed for on those trips. And he is now an employee, and then he gets to enroll the entire family and to his plan. And so now my daughter's tooth, she had to have a tooth extracted, and she had to have an implant for $3,000. That's now a business write-off. Someone needs Invisalign or braces. That's now a business write-off. Any kind of medical, going to the doctor, the mileage there is now a business write-off. This is huge because, as you know, you cannot write off those expenses. And I'm speaking to disability, but whether it's disabled or not, I'm speaking to those expenses that we all have.
Yeah.
Insurance copay, premiums, all of those things that are not a tax deduction. And if you want to write them off, you can only write them off on your Schedule A, where you write off your real estate taxes and your mortgage interest and your donations to charity and your tithes to church. All that is on Schedule A. But at the top, it says for health expenses, you cannot write off 1 penny until you reach, I think it's 8% of your gross income. So if you make $200,000 a year, you'd have to have $16,000 in medical expenses before you can write off 1 penny. However, if you have a self-employed medical reimbursement program, which is very easy to set up, do not do it yourself, okay? Go through your CPA or one of the vendors that your CPA uses. They know all the paperwork, they know everything. You sign on the dotted line, and then what happens is your son, your spouse, your children, and whomever is on that self-employed medical reimbursement program, you get a debit card. And so when they go to pick up a prescription, they use that debit card. If they go to make a copay, they use that debit card. If you go to get your teeth cleaned or whitened or whatever, you use that debit card for all those things. That way, all the transactions are on that card. And at the end of the year, your CPA can see all those expenses. And now you can write off 100%. 100%.
So that's like
of your
an
medical expenses.
HSA, in essence, having.
It's exactly like an HSA, but it's for you as a self-employed business owner. Yes.
That's amazing. So to circle back, that 8%, so if you have met that 8% of the income for the, like you said, the mental, physical, emotional classes, apparatus, you can write those expenses off if it's 8% or more.
Yeah, it has to be more than 8%. So
Well,
if
more,
you had
yeah.
if you had $10,000 in expenses and your 8% threshold is 8,000, you don't get to write off the first 8,000. You only get to write off 2,000. So I wouldn't even be bothered with that. I'd go directly to the self-employed medical reimbursement program and I'd write it all off. And the reason why I do that is because the items on your Schedule A reduce your taxable income. But the items on your Schedule C, your business expenses that are tax deductions, they reduce your taxes. So I'd put all of my expenses, if I could, on the self-employed medical reimbursement program to show everything, because now I'm going to get a dollar for dollar tax deduction as opposed to it just reducing my taxable income.
So there's the
Yeah.
strategy for April 13th, 2025 versus April 16th, 2025. You know, so it sounds like the Schedule A would work for 24 and then moving
Yes.
forward, Schedule C. But I'm
Yes.
looking at Kelly's face and I'm feeling the same way. This is
Yeah, I have a
lot.
lot to do. I want
Thank
to just
you.
say there's several more questions in the chat, so I'm gonna try to get to them really quickly. That was phenomenal, and you've only given us 3 of those 400 tips, and they are all phenomenal. The next quick question is, do you have any suggestions on home-based business that I could get into without putting lots of money into it? Home-based business examples, please, for someone that doesn't have tangible skills. And I know consulting is easy. It's easy. It's like $99 on incorporate.com or maybe through thrivetax.com, but because anybody can consult on anything. But Dr. Lynn, can you answer that, please?
Absolutely. So the thing that you want to look at, and I do highly recommend that you take my course, How to Start a Home-Based Business. It's about 2.5 hours, but let me tell you, it could be 2,000 people in that class. They stay the whole time. It's just that it is literally life-changing. It is game-changing. So I'll share information for that. It's only $29 and you also get a book. So I'll give a discount for anybody who wants that. But I'm going to give you the basic steps that are in there for how to start a home-based business. You want to take a look at what do you do naturally. Now, do not underestimate the power of what you do naturally. Naturally, I talk. I came here talking. There's this old video when they used to have back in the day, you used to turn the thing, and this old video of me at a family event, and everybody's in their own little corners, and you hear this little squeaky voice, and it's talking the whole video. It's me. It's like an hour long. I never stop talking. Okay. It's what I do naturally. My report card said talk too much. I used to get in trouble for talking. So what you do naturally. All right.
Yeah,
Now I get paid for talking. The
yeah,
second thing, what are you good at? And especially what are you good at that you devalue? And everybody tells you you're good at it, but you're like, oh yeah, whatever. I'm guilty of that. Kelly,
yeah.
you told me I was good at what I'm doing now. And I was like,
Right.
I don't want to do it. You made
Over
me do
10
it.
years ago, I said, you need to be on
Oh,
camera. Mm-hmm.
goodness gracious, gracious. So what do people tell you that you are good at? So what do you
Yeah.
do naturally? What are you good at, or what are you skilled at? Everybody's skilled at something. I remember
Mm-hmm.
being in Bible study and a 78-year-old woman said, well, I am not good at anything. All I did was clean homes for a living. I said, are you kidding me? I said, do you know how many people, Generation X, Y, Z, don't know how to clean a house? I said, you
Correct.
have the gift of household management.
That's
You can
right.
help all these moms in this upscale community who don't know how to keep their houses in order. The children aren't doing the chores. She said, oh, I can come in. I can tell them this, that, and the other. And this smile plastered on her face. And now she knew what to do. So what
Yeah.
you do naturally, what you're good at. And third, what are you passionate about? What are you passionate about?
Mm-hmm.
What makes
Mm-hmm.
your heart beat? What keeps you awake at night?
Yeah.
Those are some areas for you to look at for a home-based business. And yes, everybody can consult. You can consult on wardrobe. You can consult
Yeah.
on fashion. You can consult on how to decorate your home. You can consult
Yeah.
on getting a good job. You can consult on resumes. You can
Yeah.
consult on raising your children.
Anything.
You can consult on anything. Everybody can be a consultant.
And
Yes.
then write everything off and maybe not have a good year. So let's say there's no revenue coming in because people are struggling. So you have zero
Yes.
income in that home-based business, but you have
Yes.
$50,000 of expenses, which then you can,
Yes. Absolutely.
that's what could happen theoretically.
It is usually what happens in
Mhm.
a business. In the first few years or first several years, there are typically more expenses than income, and you're able to write off that loss on your taxes. And I always tell
That's
people,
right.
just tell the truth. Don't lie,
Tell the
don't make
truth.
up anything. Don't come telling me that you made some stuff up and you're crying, you're trying to
Don't
figure out how to
lie
get out
and
of that
tell the
trouble.
truth. That's
No,
the key. Because the
tell
truth
the
is,
truth.
we could all start a consulting home-based business today. Um,
Yes.
incorporate.com and whatever, like, or whatever other service, but it's really easy. Don't lie, but there could be a challenge getting business. So there could be very low revenue.
Yes.
And yet then
Yes.
we can hire our children because that on that business, correct? We hire our children on
Yes,
home-based
absolutely.
business.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to address something that someone said. Someone said, this is a lot. It's overwhelming. You are absolutely right. It is overwhelming. Trying to figure out how to maximize our financial picture in one afternoon or one morning or even in a week or a month, it will be just like going to kindergarten expecting to get a college degree. You
That's
can't
right.
do it. You've got to learn the alphabet. Now you've got to learn how to put words together. Then you've got to
That's
learn how to
right.
put sentences together. Now you got to make sure you understand the sentence. You got to punctuate
Right.
it. There's a whole lot of steps. And it's the exact same thing for our financial education. We'd like to
That's right.
believe that because we are all intelligent and wise and gifted in something, that it should just transfer to the money. That's not how it works. Wealthy
Mhm.
people spend time either hiring people who know what to do, and they
Mhm.
end up spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars on those people, or they learn what to do themselves. And
Yeah,
that's what we get the opportunity to do here with the SonRise Project, with everything that comes to the table,
that's
but
right.
also, of course, with your finances as relates to your families and your communities that you love.
That's so amazing, and that's so true. And I want to make sure I have time for this question that's been in here for a minute. And if we can stay just a couple minutes extra, Dr. Lynn, do you have a few
Yes,
more minutes? Okay. So this one
absolutely.
says, thank you so much for all your knowledge. I have not filed taxes in 2 years. I started a business in August 2023 in Georgia. I moved to Pennsylvania in September. I made about 500 in a year and did not switch anything to Pennsylvania. My business dissolved in September 2024. I have to file my taxes today. What can you tell me on how to claim anything from my business? I also worked numerous jobs in 2023 and 2024. Then is tax-free USA a good tax service to go with? I think you should go with Dr. Lynn's tax service. So can you share that, please?
Yeah, so you're gonna, have to roll up your sleeves and get busy, like literally roll up your sleeves. And while we were
Mhm,
waiting for the call to start, you may have to go back through all of your bank statements for the past 2 years and every single transaction, and
mhm,
document it. Is this personal or is this business? Now, if you've ever
mhm,
heard my story, the first year I ever did this was 2008. I was trained by Sandy Botkin. Sandy
mhm,
Botkin used to be an IRS tax attorney. He used to teach the IRS agents basically how to go out and get people, how to audit everybody and win. He left the IRS over now a long time ago, and he began to teach self-employed business owners all of the things he used to teach the auditors at the IRS. So he teaches us how to learn the rules of the game and play the game by the rules. That was 2007.
mm,
Seven. It was my 2008 taxes, the first year. And that's when I learned I could hire my kids, I could do this. So I went back through everything. Now, I wanted to pass out because it was a lot of
mhm.
information. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I have to go through everything. But do you know when I got done? I found about $60,000 that I could legitimately document. I put them all in a
Mhm.
spreadsheet. Had I just gone on my own knowledge, that year I had only calculated about 15,000. I had
Mhm.
$60,000 in legitimate tax deductions that I was able to go back and track and document honestly and tell the truth. And it was
That's
all
right.
because of me, one, learning, and then two,
Mm.
putting the effort. I always say
Yeah,
knowledge is not power. Knowledge is power when it is put into action. So
that's right.
take the knowledge that you have here today and put it into action. And yes, I'd highly encourage you to speak with. I think Dr. Vanessa is here. She's a one of our very, very skilled and knowledgeable tax professionals at
Mhm.
thrivetax.net. So if you go to thrivetax.net, fill out an inquiry, a member of our team, because it's tax season, will probably reach back out to you within a couple of hours because we know that time is of the essence. Now, let me just say this before we go. You can get an extension to file your taxes beyond April 15th. That gives you an extension of time to file. It does not
Yeah,
give you an extension of time to pay.
right.
So if you owe taxes, yes, they'll let you file it in September. But if in September it's discovered that you owe taxes, they're going to go back to April 15th to start calculating penalties and interest, just so you are
Mm.
aware. Now, don't let that scare you if you don't have your taxes done, if you don't know how much you owe, and if you don't have the money to make a prepayment. It is what it is. And I would say use this time between now and I would say August, so you can be ahead of the game by September, to make sure you go find every possible tax deduction that you can.
Amazing. Gosh, okay, so I put in the chat the how to start a home-based business link. And there's that plus so much more on lynnrichardson.com, just Lynn Richardson.com. I also
Yep.
put the link in for Dr. Lynn's business, Thrive Tax. It's thrivetax.net. That link is in the chat as well. And there's so much more. So there's tons of other incredible classes, workbooks, downloadable tools, and people have said, can she come back? Can she come back once a quarter at least? And she's
Yes.
nodding. As busy as she is, and on planes, trains, and automobiles, she is nodding as yes. And so thank you so much, Dr. Lynn. Go ahead,
And
please.
I would just say, because we have some significant milestones coming up. We still
Yes, we
have
do.
National Homeownership Month coming up. We've got Insurance and Estate Planning Month coming up. We've got all these things. So these are things that impact our well-being and our
Yeah.
families. And that's what the SonRise Project is all about.
Yeah.
And so we get the mental and the emotional support. I am happy to come back at any time to supplement those efforts with the financial support. Absolutely.
Gosh, thank you so much. And I appreciate you, and I know our entire community and village appreciates you. I want to just say the 3 tips of the 475 that we learned today. Get the IRA contribution if you can, up to 8,000 for 2024. Do that today if you have not done it. And even if you can't do that, start somewhere. If you haven't done that,
Yep.
start somewhere. That was number one. Number two, pay each of our children. Pay them as employees up to 13,400 a year. Incredible if we have a home-based business. And then create with guidance a self-employed medical reimbursement program. That just took
Yes.
all kinds of over the edge. But that's 3 tips of countless more. So Dr. Lynn, as we get ready to close and I turn it over to Dr. Vicky, any last closing words for this coming Tuesday or beyond?
Yes, I would also say that for your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, those people that you hire, you can pay them more than 13,400. And if you pay them more than 13,400 for your children, because the first 13,400 is tax free to them, anything over that, you can now take that money and put it into their retirement plan.
What?
So now you might be asking yourself, well, why would I do that? Well, ask yourself this question. Do you want to pay the IRS, or would you rather pay into your child's retirement?
And
Yeah.
set up
Okay.
their accounts now. I had never even
Exactly.
considered that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the first 13,400 that your child makes is automatically tax free. So now you're thinking, oh, but they're going to owe taxes on the money over 13,400. No, now you can put money into their IRA, their 401k, their retirement plan. pay
Oh,
their tuition, all these things. So that's my closing statement, that there's one little
and
nugget, but that nugget now has a nugget.
it's multiple nuggets.
So
And you talked about
yeah,
last time the college, people going to college and paying to put kids in dorms or apartments versus buying a property and having the property pay for itself because of all the rooms that are rented.
yes,
That was mind blowing too.
game
So
changer.
game changing. Oh gosh. Okay. We could go on and on and on and on. I just want to, there's so many people that are saying thank you. I want to connect with the person that answered my help. I will do my best to go back through the chat and figure that out. Dr. Lynn, if someone wants to reach out to you directly, what's the best way
Yes.
to reach you?
Please go to asklynn.org. I look at those inquiries regularly and frequently. Those we look at them and we actually handle them. So literally, if you go to asklynn.org, you're going to get an automatic reply, but you're also going to get an individual reply unique to your question, and quite possibly a phone call from me, or a time to set up an appointment with me, a link to set up an appointment. So asklynn.org is the one-stop shop for any and all questions, so that I can get you what you need and get you to where you're trying to go.
That's perfect. And people are saying, you are taking new clients, you're helping people get their stuff up to straight if they haven't filed for multiple years. Ask Dr. Lynn .org
Yes.
and then provide the proper support, or thrivetax.net.
Yes,
Right? Okay.
asklynn.org or thrivetax.net. And yes, I've got a super amazing team, people that I have been training,
Yes,
people
yes,
who
awesome.
practice what they preach, and
Yeah,
people who live what I teach.
yeah,
So it's like going to a dentist with no teeth. No, that's not going to work. It's actually people who are doing what it is that we're talking about, have learned and trained, and are ready to serve. I have an excellent team of great
that's
professionals. And of course,
amazing.
always got me.
And we have you. You are incredible. I am so grateful for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I could go on and on. I could sit here and talk with you all day. Really appreciate you. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Vicky, who will close us out this morning.
Hey, before Dr. Vicky jumps on, someone was asking about the book that Dr. Lynn mentioned the last time, the Life After Divorce finance book you had.
Oh
It was in
yes,
the chat.
let's
I'm
make sure
sorry.
I get that person's email and phone number. I remember that. Let's make
Yeah,
sure
I
I get
texted
that
it to
living.
you, but I can send it again.
Oh yes, please send that to me again. Yep. I'll make sure Dr. Trina gets it, so it can actually get to the people that will actually activate the task.
That's wonderful. And I just put in my,
Yes.
yes, so much more, but thank
Yeah,
you.
get that to me again, Dee. I'll take care of it right away.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Vicky.
I'm speechless.
Me too.
Oh my goodness. God, we thank you for this beautiful day that you have given to us. Thank you for the favor and the gift of Dr. Lynn Richardson and all of her wisdom, knowledge, and insight. Thank you for energy to implement and execute the next thing, whatever that is for each of us, because it's different. Thank you for the SonRise Project. Thank you for Kelli and Dee and this vision. Thank you for 5 years, 5 being the number of grace. Again, favor. Continue to bless Dr. Lynn and her family. Continue to give her strength, give her wisdom, preserve her life, her energy, her health. God, we just thank you for the gift that is Dr. Lynn Richardson and for all the wisdom shared here today. Thank you for the opportunity to become better stewards and good stewards of what you have entrusted to us as we continue to build legacies and create generational wealth. Thank you for breaking every generational curse, even starting here today with information and knowledge and wisdom, because wisdom is the principal thing. And you said in your word, and all of your getting, get wisdom and then understanding. Thank you for Dr. Lynn's team that continues to be consistent and committed to help us be better people. God, we just give you glory for this today. We don't take it for granted. You said in everything give thanks, for this is your will for our lives through Christ Jesus concerning us. No matter where we are today, thank you that every day from this moment forward gets better. And we thank you for these things that are working for our good and your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Have a
Thank
powerful
you.
day, everyone.
Thank you all so
Amen.
much.
Amen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
God
Thank you,
bless you
Dr.
all.
Lynn. Thank you. Have a wonderful, incredible week, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Lynn.